Shalom, shalom, peace and blessings. Now let's get straight into it. So not too long ago, I made a literal post here on YouTube about what brothers would like to see next. And this is a video that I hadn't planned on really making. But once I saw this comment, because I have these other videos here on the screen currently in production, where really the Millennial Kingdom second part video is pretty much already ready. I already have the scriptures pulled up. I just have to record it and edit it and post it. And some of these other lessons are pretty much almost there. But there is a lesson that kind of skipped the line. The brother Jay Moreno, which I believe is based on his name, is probably why he asked this question, or at least wanted to see a video on this. He said, "Shalom, brother. Shalom to you too as well. The Aboriginal of Americas and the Assyrian captivity." And he's responding to, are there any videos that brothers would like to see? So basically he's saying the Aboriginals of Americas and the Assyrian captivity. I want to do a series of all the captivities. So we'll talk about that portion of his question next, or, down the road, I should say. But we're going to focus on the Aboriginals of the Americas. All right. So this is a really deep topic. It's so much to cover because there's so much history, but let me just get out with it. I mean, how long I've been recording now? Like a minute. Let me just get out with it. So I agree with this brother Yaquez here. So let's read this comment and then I'll get into it. He says, "I also want a video on the Aboriginals of America, particularly Mesoamerica. I do believe Mexicans are Northern Kingdom. However, I don't believe the group who overwhelmingly identify as Mexicans today are Northern Kingdom. I believe a lot of them are Spaniards ethnically, especially after seeing the stone-built facial features of the Olmecs that are clearly African looking." I couldn't agree more with this comment here, because that is what I believe to be true too. So there are quite a few things I want to go into, but first I want to start with the 12 tribes chart, because that is also another question. I was just kind of looking back on my comments, and this is a question that I've gotten like over the time, many times over the time I've been doing this channel, at least, and then other brothers too as well. There's a question I've gotten and we've gotten many times. So like this brother here said, "I would like to hear your breakdown and opinion on the 12 tribes chart." Another brother said, "Brother, this is a good topic to discuss, like the false 12 tribes chart and the heathens and the congregations." Okay. Another brother said, "Brother, can you do a breakdown on the 12 tribes chart? I would like basically your perspective. I know it's not accurate because it was used as a hook to bring people into one West camp." And the brother is absolutely correct. So let's just get on with it. Let's first talk about the 12 tribes chart. I also want to talk about Hosea 7 and 8. And are the Mexicans and Native Americans the same ancient people to the lands? Meaning, are they Aboriginal? Are they indigenous to the land, the people known today, the modern Mexicans and Native Americans? That's what I want to talk about today. So, brothers, first of all, like I said, I agree with this. But like I said, it's so much to cover, brothers. It's so much to cover. But before we really get into everything else, I wanted to pull up the 12 tribes chart. Okay. If you're watching this channel, you probably know what the 12 tribes chart is. And the other brother, the last brother here, he kind of alluded to it being used as a hook to bring people into one West camp. So let's see what the brother meant by that. First, let's look at the chart, and then we'll talk a little bit about the history and then what I think about it too as well, which I'm about to do that now. So let's look. You see, you have the 12 tribes. You have Judah being ascribed to the American blacks, quote unquote, Benjamin, West Indies blacks, Levi, the Haitians, and then Ephraim, the Puerto Ricans, Manasseh, the Cubans, Simeon, Dominicans, Zebulon, Guatemala to Panama, or the Mayans, Gad, the American Indians, Reuben, Seminole Indians, Asher, Colombia to Uruguay, the Incas, Issachar being the Mexicans or the Aztecs, and Naphtali being Argentina or Chile. Which I believe once brothers got down to the bottom, they was just kind of freestyling because the Argentinians is wild. Now look, because Messi is Lionel Messi is quote unquote Argentinian. I mean, we saying he's an Israelite. Anyways, look. This 12 tribes chart is trash to me. It is completely trash. I detest this chart for many reasons. And I believe I've spoken about it before. I don't think this is my first time talking about the 12 tribes chart. I believe I've talked about it many times now. But we will get to specifically Reuben and Issachar. But I just wanted to start out talking about the 12 tribes chart in general. I believe it is trash. Okay. Why? Because when we look at the distribution here, the distribution of the 12 tribes, what we see here is that pretty much what you would have to do for this chart to be accurate, we would pretty much have to not only have been scattered, but scattered in a group. So when you think about a people being scattered, you can't get scattered together within your group and they end up in the exact same lands. Scattered means that all 12 tribes are scattered all throughout the four corners of the earth. For this to be true, that would mean that everyone that is a quote unquote American black is Judah, meaning when we were scattered within the four corners of the earth, like they have scriptures here, I believe, like James 1:1 that says to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, or Isaiah 11:11, scattered abroad, Africa and abroad, scattered throughout Africa and abroad. That's not the full verse, but we get the point. When we were scattered abroad, brothers, we weren't scattered within our tribe, within our nation of people. Now, I'm not saying throughout history that tribes did not roll together. There are several examples of a group of people within history being attributed mainly to one or two tribes, like the Vikings mainly being attributed to the tribe of Benjamin, like the Spartans mainly being Judah or Dan. I'm not saying that that's not the case, but right now in today, like in the modern world, that is not the case. We are too scattered at this point for us to even know our tribe. Our tribe will not be given back to us until the times that we read about in Revelation, the 21st chapter. Until Yahushua comes back, that's also in Matthew, the 25th chapter. Okay. When Yahushua comes back, he's going to sort out all of this nonsense, all of this confusion. All the nations will be sorted out. All the tribes will be sorted out. Everyone that's meant to know will know who their tribe is. But until that time, we're just playing dress up. This is like Halloween or something. Like we walking around saying, oh yeah, Simeon, that's a Simeonite. I'm Simeon. I'm Levi. I'm Benjamin. I'm Judah. That's an Issacharite. We really don't know, brothers. And the sooner you face that fact, the better off you will be. And like I was saying, there's a brother that alluded to the 12 tribes chart not being accurate because it was used as a hook to bring people into One West camp. So let's get a little bit on that, what the brother meant by that, just in case y'all didn't know. Maybe a lot of you brothers already know this. I'm on, as you saw, I had for the 12 tribes chart too as well. I'm actually on IUIC's or Israel United in Christ website because they have a really nice website. I really like this. It's organized and everything is laid out really nice on here on these different tabs. Like it says history here. So what I noticed is they have some history about the One West camp, which if you don't know, pretty much all this means is if you're familiar, if you know, you know. It's one of those things you'd have to kind of look up yourself. And I don't claim to know the most about One West or the origins of what we would call the quote unquote Hebrew Israelite movement in America. But either way, let's read this and get a little bit of history on the brother Abba Bivens. Okay. It says here, Eber Ban Yamyan, also known as Abba Bivens, was initially taught he was an Israelite by an ex-slave some many years earlier in the South. Bivens believed in the Black Christ, and on his way to New York, had visited many Indian reservations and came to the scriptural conclusion that the so-called Indians were Israelites as well, which is probably one of the reasons that we still walk around with this belief. But either way, he then came to New York and joined the Commandment Keepers under Wentworth Matthews, but rejected Matthews' teachings of the Old Testament only and Kabbalah. Bivens founded the Torah School of Knowledge. He was the first to teach both the blacks, Latinos, and Indians of the Americas are Israelites. In New Jersey, he was assaulted by the Nation of Islam Muslims because he publicly and biblically denounced Islam as the false religion of the Arabs. As a result, he contracted a bad case of pneumonia. As a result of the assault? Either way, before he died, he declared Mashah and Yaqub as the school leaders. Jealousy caused many members to reject the new school leaders. All right. So this was the beginning of the One West camp. Okay. And pretty much most of the camps, I believe they have that somewhere on here too as well. Yeah. So basically with One West, most of the popular camps that we know today, they branched off from the One West camp, and One West is a street in New York, okay, where brothers first started bringing it out that so-called black people, and as they said here, Latinos and Native Americans were Israelites. So before this happened in the 60s, you did not have this being as prevalent as it is now. I truly believe, and it is also based on history as well, that many brothers and sisters knew that they were Israel. However, it was much more of a kept secret, okay, before brothers started bringing it out on the streets. Now, with One West, in a lot of these camps, like you see here, this is the leader of the IUIC camp. I believe it's Bishop Nathaniel, right? I think it's Bishop Nathaniel. And then you have the brother that Tahar of GMS, the brother Zabak of the House of Israel, and then you have Yohana of ISUPK. And if you know about ISUPK, then you know why I kind of why why I said that certain way. But either way, you have the brother from GOCC too as well, so on and so forth. Okay. Mashah or King David, which he thought that he was King David in the flesh again in reincarnation. But either way, so this is kind of how One West, at least the modern camps today, most of the camps that brothers know about, like IUIC and GMS and ISUPK and GOCC, and even some of the other camps kind of branched off from one of these camps. Okay, not every single camp, but a lot of the doctrine that these brothers brought out, it came from these brothers here. Okay, which in my estimation was a gift and a curse. Why do I say that? The gift is obviously the knowledge. I mean, for the most part, what these brothers were bringing out is still solid today. And that's why so many brothers like really hang on to what these brothers were bringing out, like Abba Bivens and everyone at One West, because most of it is solid. But also the curse is because we revere these men so much for bringing out the truth, that if there are, certain holes within the doctrine, a lot of times we don't want to call it out. And we get caught in the same thing that people within Christianity get caught up in. We more look at it like if the vast majority of Israelites believe this, then it has to be true. And that's what is holding a lot of our people back that's stuck in Christianity and that's stuck into Islam or stuck in Islam, right? They believe, oh, well, if there are billions of people that believe in Christianity, it can't be right. That is a fallacy. Okay. That is a logical fallacy that many people have an issue with, from the flesh, that is, because spiritually it's just the Most High not dealing with you, not opening up your spirit to see the actual truth, okay, for what it is. But in the flesh, it's your brain not processing because of the Most High put it on you. But from your flesh, it's your brain processing information in a way of, okay, well, if most people believe something, it has to be true, because if not, somebody else would probably have called it out. And that's not always the case. I mean, sometimes it is true. Hey, the sky is blue, right? I mean, 1 + 1 = 2. Well, you even had a brother, what's his name? Is Terrence Howard? Mind, the nigga that's like Mind from Hustle and Flow or whatever. He said 1 + 1 = 3, but either way, or 1 × 1 = 3. But either way, when you have, you have foundational principles like 1 + 1 = 2 and the sky is blue. I'm not saying that everything, that is foundationally known to be true is not true, right? Just because so many people believe it. And I feel like I'm deviating from the point. So let me get back to the point. But what I am saying is that just because these brothers brought out the truth, just because One West is a foundational piece of all of us having the knowledge that we have, that does not mean that these brothers were 100% correct about everything that they were bringing out at that time, especially from the 60s. I mean, come on, brothers. It's been, 60, 70 years. All right. And, like I always say, when you have camps that split off, that's not a good thing. That's not a good sign, right? Like a lot of the camps that exist right now are split offs of split offs. So they split off from here, and that camp split off, and then we got camps splitting off from the split offs, right? That's not a good thing. Okay. But what that more is a sign is that, little brothers, we do not have the 100% truth. None of us do. And until the 100% truth returns, which is Yahweh Shah HaMashiach, aka Christ, or, what the world calls Jesus Christ, until Yahweh Shah returns, we will not have the 100% truth. So that's why, it's dangerous to get up and try to agree on one thing so much, because brothers are going to start having certain convictions, and that's why these camps get split off anyways, right? Because we have our own way of viewing things. But back to the point. That's just a very small insight just from the information that I know, that I've known about One West and how this works. Okay. But why the brother said that it was a hook is this is something like when I made this rather quickly, because I had all this information already in my notes, and it's something I've been going over for a long time, not just with, One West camp and all of that, but just from the Native Americans and the Mexicans, the quote unquote Mexicans, the quote unquote Native Americans, and are they Israelites or not? I've had a lot of this information in my notes for a very long time, just never really spoke about it, because I know that most of the brothers that I was running with at a certain time, they still pretty much ascribe to what was brought out in One West. Okay. And for a very long time, I have not believed it. When I first came into this walk, yeah, absolutely. But, once I did my own research and kind of saw how things were, how it didn't really make sense that the people that were known as Aztecs, like it said on the 12 tribes chart, were not the same day as the modern day Mexicans. And the Native Americans are not the same people today known as Native Americans. All right, not just by their looks, but by their lineage. I immediately was like, oh, nah, I cannot fool with this. But let me pull this up real quick as far as the 12 tribes chart. Okay, it says here, this is Chief of Chiefs, Naphtali ben Naphtali, teacher and historian. And let's see what he says about Abba Bivens. And basically, if we read here, it says the first clip overlaps considerably with the clip I showed before in the previous post, where a man recounts how Bivens had a tribes chart, but admitted that it was nonsense, saying that's the hook, i.e. a sort of gimmick or hustle to get people interested. I included it here because I think the concept of the hook has relevance to the other two clips. So basically, Abba Bivens said that the 12 tribes chart is simply a hook to bring the people in. AK is false. AK, it's made up. AK, it's not the truth. But we're using that as a hook to bring people in. No. You cannot use a deception. I mean, that becomes a deception when you're not using the truth. Okay, I don't care about a hook. If we're going to bring people in what we call the truth, and it has to be brought in with the truth. The hook can also be the truth, right? We don't have to bring people in, and it's not our job to try to, in this flesh, say things to bring people in, based on a lie, based on something that's made up. And that's what the 12 tribes chart is. It's made up for the most part. Now, look. The Aztecs, I believe, are Issacharites. Let me get that straight. Not everything on the chart is completely made up. All right. But most of it is. All right. Most of it is freestyling. I can tell, especially when they got down towards the end. I mean, again, Naphtali being Argentina / Chile. So Argentinian and Chileans are Naphtali. I don't know if looking like brothers just kind of was freestyling on this. All right. But that's what brother said himself. So let's play this. I believe we should be able to hear my audio, Lord willing. So I'm gonna just play this. I don't have a problem with brothers using discernment to get the message out. I don't have a problem with that. But let's go too far with that, as in making up a whole chart. And that's the thing is, brothers, when you make up something, when you make up a lie, just like evolution is something made up by the Darwins, okay? By Darwin and his grandfather, okay? Charles Darwin, and his grandfather. What was his grandfather's name? I'll probably put it on the screen real quick. But either way, but that was made up, and now people are trying to, quote unquote, scientists are trying to back up to a made up belief. You can't make something up and then try to find evidence and data to prove it to be correct. You see what I'm saying? So that's what we do with the 12 tribes chart. It's something that was made up, admittingly made up as a quote unquote hook to bring people in. And then now you got brothers be doing breakdowns. This is why the 12 tribes chart is true. And all it is, it's nonsense, man. Come on. Anyways, let's see. I think the brother gonna admit it on this video. I had this video in my archives from a while back, so I believe the brother admits it on here. Let me see.
Was saying,
all right, I went ahead and skipped up to where the brother was. He's about to bring out the part that the other brother mentioned about the hook. So let's get it.
Anyway, that was a great experience. I went up there a couple times. And one time we were over there and they had the charts up. And they had the charts that said if you're Jamaican, you come from this tribe, and if you're from Barbados, it's that tribe, and boom, 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 boom. And read the book, said, hey, come on, Pop. What is, you know that ain't right. He said, of course, Danny, I know that's not right. He said, but that's the hook. That's how we get them into place, and we wire them up to what's true. Well, years later, after he passed away.
So it's more than likely the brother that made that comment. He saw this same video like I did too as well. So a lot of brothers, for whatever reason, they get quite upset if you mention anything about the 12 tribes chart. They don't want you to talk about it. They don't want you to talk about how there's literal evidence from brothers that were there saying that the the chart was made up. I'm not sure why, but like I said, I really believe that it's the reverence, which is, let's just put it all out there, that can turn to downright idolatry of One West and the One West doctrine, quote unquote, which is where people, if somebody say camp doctrine, they're more than likely talking about, the One West doctrine that was brought out. When I say the One West doctrine, at least the teachings from the brothers that originally came from One West. All right. If someone says camp doctrine, that's more than likely what they're talking about. But either way, since we have reverence for those men, and again, sometimes even leading to idolatry, that's why brothers don't want to talk about it. A lot of y'all need to check y'all spirits, man. Y'all don't want to deal with the actual truth, and you're no better than any other Christian. If you try to talk to a Christian about what the truth actually is, and they just holding on to it, no matter what you say, no matter how you bring it out, no matter how well you present the facts, trust me, I would know, because I have a brother that is literally a Christian that I've done this with many times. Not as much recently. I used to back in the day, but once I saw that it was getting nowhere, I just, I don't have time to go back and forth with him all the time. But if you've done that before, then you know that there's just nothing that you can tell them. There's nothing you can tell them because they already set in their ways. If you don't have an open mind, and it's the same way with us as being, believers of the truth. All right. That we are Israel, and we are supposed to keep the statute, laws, and commandments of the Most High. All right. If you become so high-minded and closed-minded, at least in this aspect, to that, the 12 tribes chart and different things about what these brothers brought out, if you become closed-minded about this, you are no different from any other Christian or anyone in any other false religion. You're no different. And if you don't want to talk about it, every time you talk about, oh, you a scoffer, you an individualite, you a this, you a that, okay. You doing the same thing as the Christians too, where, if you bring something out, they say, oh, you're a black Hebrew Israelite, you're part of a hate group, you're filled with hate. That's people coping, with what's being brought out. They're trying to basically, it's a red herring, basically, right? You're trying to attack the person, or you're just making things up to try to get away from the point, which is also a fallacy too as well. All right. When you make those type of attacks on someone just because of the words they say, even if that doesn't necessarily mean, or what they said doesn't necessarily mean the things that you say. Y'all are no different. You call me an individualite, or you're this and that. Like, brothers got so many different terms. If you bring out information like this, and this is quite basic. Everyone, for the most part, should know this, right? That the 12 tribes chart is false. It was made up, and as the brother attested here, that was there. It was made as a hook, okay, to bring people in. And that's what a lot of y'all problem is too. You're so focused on bringing people in a quote unquote truth for various reasons. One, for your own self-glory, a lot of y'all. And two, because you think that, okay, I'm going to be seen as more righteous if I have a larger audience than the next man. And third, you haven't cultivated a certain life within this captivity to where you think that, okay, if I just work hard enough, we work hard enough, we'll get enough people in the truth that therefore we can get the 144K seal and we can get up out of here. I'm not even saying that's not true per se, but when you are presenting information like right now, I don't, I mean, nobody has to believe what I'm saying right now, but I'm just telling you what it is. When I'm sharing information, like I'm not saying I am this to y'all and y'all got to come to me. Like if I ask what y'all want to see lessons on, I more view it as me sharing information, me sharing the information I've came across so we can have feedback with each other and we all can grow. Not because I believe I'm no more than y'all, not because I believe I'm more righteous than anybody else, so on and so forth. All right. A lot of y'all, y'all don't have that same spirit on you. You know, that's why you get so mad when somebody doesn't accept what you're saying, because you like, I'm an Israelite. I'm studied. I'm the one that researching and you don't. So why like you gotta cut it out, man. But anyways, ran over on that. So that's kind of the breakdown on the 12 tribes chart. And what all this means is that everything on here now has to be scrutinized. Right. And don't get it twisted. Like the so-called black man in America could be Judah. Okay. Some of these things could be true to a certain extent, or at least a majority of the people. Right. On some of these. All right. On some of them. But again, the problem is here's the biggest problem. Now we can kind of transition to the Aborigines, which I feel like I'm doing so many different parts of videos of the lessons nowadays. It's because sometimes I like to get the first lesson out and kind of hit a lot of the general things and then use the next lesson to kind of get deeper into the topic. But here's the first thing I want to bring out to brothers, okay? The ancient Americans, like the Olmecs, Aztecs, the Mayans, etc., they are not the same people as the modern day people that we see today, or that are known as the Native Americans, aka the Indians or the Mexicans. They are not the same people. When you get history about the ancient Americans, the Aborigines, the actual native people in America, North and South, you're not looking at the same people that we see today. Therefore, and you don't have to believe that or accept it, but either way, you're not looking at the same people. Okay. And once you understand that, you make that disconnect, then it starts to make a ton of more sense. Right. Like the brother mentioned, where was it at? Oh, it was in the post where the brother mentioned the Olmec statues looking, quote unquote, African looking. Now, I mean, I kind of have an issue with quote unquote African looking here in a sense, but I know what the brother meant, so I don't want to be technical here. But what he's saying is the Olmec statues, we all know the Olmec statues, right? The El Negro, what they look like with the lips. So I have to pull that up. I feel like most brothers here will probably have seen it before, but I'll pull it up real quick. Okay, here's one of them. The El Negro Olmec monumental stone sculpture. Okay. Anyone is plain to see. And Olmecs, they were one of the original Americas, or Aboriginal people to America. They date all the way back to 1600 BC or so. So this is more than likely the people that were already here in America, even throughout the time of, King David and further back. This was our people. Okay. And you can see the strong facial features, and it's literally named El Negro. All right. And while I look at this, look at the nose, look at the lips, it's quite easy to tell what's going on here. I feel like everybody pretty much, even like pro-black people, know this. Like this is, pretty much common knowledge. Everybody know about the Olmec monumental stones in Mexico. Okay. So when you see that, just understand that that's not the same. Those people, the Olmecs, are not the same people as the quote unquote Mexicans. That's why they don't look the same. Now let's talk about physical appearance, because a lot of times you will get called in what do they call it? I think I got it on here because I wrote down like some real quick notes because I have a ton of history already pulled up, but I just want to put it in a certain way before I really get down to it. So I'm just touching a lot of the broader topics first, and then we can get the history on it because there's so much to cover. But either way, what is it? Negro only Israelite. Negro only. Let's talk about appearance, bro. So there is some scriptures that I want to get to because of appearance. So let's go to, matter of fact, like I said, Hosea 7 and 8. Okay, let's get Hosea 7 and 8. It says, Ephraim, he hath mixed himself among the people. Ephraim is a cake not turned. Brothers believe Hosea 7 and 8, just like picture cooking a pancake. And if you've cooked it on one side, the side, you just put a pancake batter on a skillet or what have you. And the bottom part is cooked, but the top part isn't cooked yet. It's still normally like a batter like that is normally, white, right? Or at least it's, it's not as brown as the side that hasn't been cooked yet. That's what brothers think that the scriptures are saying about Ephraim, which is ascribed to the Puerto Ricans, right? Ephraim, Puerto Ricans. So this is their excuse that brothers that uses scripture to say that, to justify that. That's why they say that most Puerto Ricans, because most Puerto Ricans that you see, we know that they appear to be so-called white by their skin tone, right? And also, brothers not only refer to Puerto Ricans, the so-called Puerto Ricans of today, but also like some of the other Northern Kingdom nations, like the quote unquote Mexicans, and why a lot of them are even what they call themselves, quote unquote, white Mexicans. That's why a lot of them appear almost as similar to the so-called white man. Like you have the former president. This is the former president, Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador. He is almost indistinguishable from a so-called white man. This is Mexico's former president before they got that woman president that they got now. But this is the former president of Mexico. And by appearance, we're going to touch on it in just a little second. But appearance obviously is not indicative of a sea line. However, it's not just about skin tone. When we're talking about appearance, it's not just skin tone. Skin tone is not everything, but it's also the facial features, just like we looked at the El Negro. It's about the facial features as well as skin tone. And it just happens to be that with all nations on planet Earth, they pretty much are similar, not the exact same, but they are at least similar in skin tone and facial features for the most part. Now, so-called black people come in many different shapes and sizes. So it is not a one size fits all, right? We know many brothers use like Blake Griffin and his kids as an example. We know the examples of people that are so-called black, like a Patrick Mahomes that's so-called black by the lineage of his father, but their kids, because they have kids with a so-called white woman, their kids look pretty much indistinguishable from a so-called white person. We know that. Most of the brothers that's watching this video probably already know that. But again, a lot of times you can't get past those features, even if the skin tone isn't there. Not every single time, right? Not every single time where you have a so-called black looking nose, a so-called black lips, right? And other features too. However, again, when you looking at the modern so-called Mexican and the modern so-called Native American, the features, everything is completely different from most of our people. So No, we don't have three different sets of people with different facial features and skin tones, right? And I'm saying three, but really, if we go into all the different countries in Southern America, we don't have in Central and South America, we don't have all these different people that are Israelites that's all looking completely different and everything. Okay. Again, I'm just covering this from a broad standpoint, but let's go back to the scriptures. Hosea 7 and 8. This is not referring to the skin tone. Okay. Now, I'm not saying in the scriptures that there aren't scriptures that refer to skin tone. Don't take it far. I ain't saying that. All right. Don't get crazy. Like Song of Solomon, the first chapter. Okay. Look, I'm there with you. There are many scriptures that refer to skin tone. All right. From the standpoint of our people and even other nations having melanin. I'm with you 1,000%. But just here in this context, it has nothing to do with that. Okay, this is what it's referring to. Let's get Hosea 5 and 15. This is the Most High speaking here. Let's go to 14 for a little bit more context, because this don't even take long. Hosea 5 and 14. For I will be unto Ephraim as a lion, and as a young lion to the house of Judah. I, even I, will tear and go away. I will take away, and none shall rescue him. Verse 15, I will go and return to my place till they acknowledge their offense and seek my face. In their affliction, they will seek me early. This is the Most High saying that he's not dealing with Ephraim. And to a certain extent, obviously Judah too as well, because of the idolatry of our people. I will go and return to my place till they acknowledge their offense. The Most High still is not dealing with the children of Israel on a certain level, as we see in the scriptures, because of our idolatry, because of our sin. It won't be until it's closer to time that we start seeing the Most High dealing with our people on a different level. But right now, he's hidden his face from us. Okay? But we're seeking him. Until that time comes, he's hidden our face. He's hidden his face from us, the Most High. That's what this is referring to. All right, let's go to Hosea 4 and 17. Ephraim is joined to idols. Let him alone. 18. Their drink is sour. They have committed whoredom continually. Her rulers will with shame do love. Give ye, because Ephraim, or verse 16 too as well, of course, for Israel slided back as a backsliding heifer. Now the Lord will feed them as a lamb in a large place. The northern kingdom was going off so bad that pretty much the whole book of Hosea was addressing it at this time. They were going into the different customs of the Egyptians. They were going into the customs of the Assyrians, worshiping their gods, all right, performing their sacrifices, so on and so forth. That's why it says in verse 17, Ephraim is joined to idols. Okay. Now, to go back here to Hosea chapter 7, all you have to do is just go up just a few verses here, and then it'll make sense. It's not talking about no skin color, man. Verse 4 in Hosea 7, they are all adulterers, meaning Ephraim, right? When it says Israel, the iniquity of Ephraim, the wickedness of Samaria. Okay, that's the topic here, okay? Excuse me, the topic. Verse 4, they are all adulterers, as an oven heated by the baker, who ceaseth from raising after he have kneaded the dough until it be leavened. Verse 6, for they have made ready their heart like an oven, whilst they lie in wait. Their baker sleepeth all the night. In the morning it burneth as a flaming fire. Translation, the Most High is saying that remember we read that Ephraim in Hosea 4 and 17, we read that Ephraim, or the northern kingdom, was let alone. Leave them alone. The Most High is not dealing with them. He's turned his face from the northern kingdom because of their idolatry, because of their sins. Okay, they are adulterers. They're sleeping with the other nations in their ideologies and their philosophies. Okay. And the Most High is saying it's like a baker that puts in a cake inside of an oven and then sleeps, that doesn't flip it over, that lets you burn. All right, the baker in this context will be the Most High. Sleep it all the night, meaning, remember, he turned his face from the people. So it's like the Most High put the people of Ephraim, or the northern kingdom, in the oven and let them burn, and didn't flip them over and didn't take them out. You see, let's read verse 6 again. For they have made ready their heart like an oven, whilst they lie in wait. Their baker sleepeth all the night. In the morning it burneth as a flaming fire. You see, verse 7. They are all hot as an oven, and have devoured their judges. All their kings are fallen. There is none among them that calleth unto me. Now you see the context, verse 8. Ephraim, he hath mixed himself among the people. Ephraim is a cake not turned. Ephraim is a cake not turned, meaning like a pancake that you put into say if you put a pancake in the oven. Obviously, that's not normal way you prepare a pancake, but just from the context of what the scriptures are saying, picture pudding, or you could say on a skillet. All right, on a cast iron skillet. Okay, you put pancake batter on a skillet, and you just leave it there. All right, you just let it burn. The Most High is saying that he's letting the northern kingdom burn. He's letting them feel the fire. All right, he's not coming to save them because of their iniquity. He's turned their back on them. Okay, because of their sin. That makes sense. This is not, so brothers go here to say, oh, this is why the Mexicans look different. This is why the Puerto Ricans look white today. This is the scripture right here that talks about it. It was prophesied. Or like the speckled bird. These scriptures were not talking about nobody in Israel being so-called white, man. That's not what it was referring to. You see? Again, what you have to understand is that the way the world is right now is not the way the world was even, hundreds of years ago. That's called anthropology, the movement of people throughout the annals of history. Okay. There hasn't been any major movements of people since when? Since, you had the quote unquote Jewish people moving to the land of Israel. But for the most part, you haven't had, and that was just, in the 1948 or whenever. You don't have that many people moving as much as you've seen before in history, like you read about in the scriptures here. But everyone is not where they originally was. And I think brothers know that, but that applies to our people, obviously, not just from the land of Israel, but also the Israelites that were scattered in the Americas, that were scattered in Europe, all right, scattered all over. We're not in the same place. And the modern day people are not the same people. So you have to be very careful with making that type of assumption. Okay, and then justifying it by saying, oh, well, that's why they look like this. Using scriptures. Scriptures don't say nothing about, the people being looking so-called white. Okay, scriptures ain't dealing with that. Now, the scriptures deal with admixture. It literally says here in Hosea 7:8, he hath mixed himself among the people. That's what happened. Okay, the northern kingdom has mixed itself amongst the people. Okay, we know that. But you got to know that. And what that means is that everybody that calls themselves a Mexican, everybody that calls themselves a Puerto Rican are not Aboriginal people to that land. You understand? Now, since America is vast and you have North America, Central and South America, you have the Native Americans, it's so much to cover. It's like I wanted to isolate just the so-called Mexicans for one part of it, and then going to Native Americans is one part of it. But I'm probably just going to do everything all at once. But I think the last thing that I want to cover here, at least on this part, is this: the Aztecs. Because remember here that Aztecs is in parentheses, meaning that the Aztecs are Mexicans. And even the Mexicans will say our forefathers and be referring to the Aztecs. No, most of the modern day Mexicans, their forefathers are not the Aztecs. They are the Spanish conquistadors that came and ramshacked the land in the 1500s. Okay, let's read about that really quickly. All right. First of all, let's read this. Mestizos. I've been meaning to say this for a minute. So the most of the people that you see in Mexico are actually mestizos, okay, aka mixed, and they know that. Okay, this is common knowledge too. Let's see. It says mestizos in Mexico. In Mexico, the term mestizo is an identity of those mixed European, mainly Spanish, and Amerindian, mainly Mesoamerican ancestry. So that's why the people in Mexico speak Spanish in the first place. Okay. When you have a people that come and conquer the land, you normally speak the language of the people. You do all the customs of that people that you got conquered by. That's why we speak English here in America. That's why if you go down there to Jamaica, they have a strong English presence. They have, like in Haiti, there's a strong French presence, right? It's because when you get conquered by the people, or like we think about Hellenization with the Greeks, okay, with Alexander the Greek Hellenizing most of the known world at that time, all right, in the 4th century BC, and most people speaking Greek. That's because of that. When you take over the land, you make them do everything you do, for the most part. Okay, you got to start speaking a language. And that's why these people speak Spanish anyways, because they got conquered by the Spanish conquistadors. Okay. Now it says some believe it can be defined by criteria ranging from ideological and cultural to self-identification, genetic ancestry, and or physical appearance. Here's the part though. According to these criteria, estimates of the number of mestizos in Mexico vary from about 40% of the population to over 90%, including indigenous descendants that do not recognize themselves as part of an indigenous culture and white Americans. White Mexicans. Most of you brothers know this too about the quote unquote Afro Mexicans. Pretty much every country in America, when I say America, meaning the continent of North and South America, most of the countries within the Americas have a quote unquote Afro portion, where most of the people in whatever section that is, they have people that look so-called black. Y'all know about the so-called Afro Mexicans, right? The Afro Cubans, the Afro Puerto Ricans. Those are the indigenous people of the lands. Those are the original, those are the Israelites. Those are the people that you can say without a shadow of a doubt, they are from that land, and they are genetically, they are ancestrally, in their lineage are the Aztecs, aka the Israelites. They are Issacharites, at least there in Mexico. But there are a portion of the Afro people in almost every country in the Americas. Okay. And I think a lot of y'all know that. So for y'all that know this, I mean, really, it's just me kind of going over this information. I'm probably just confirming some of the things that you have suspicions about too. If you don't know, then it's time to at least open your mind to some of this information. Okay. So most of the people that you see, this is where I'm getting at. Okay. Most of the people that you see in Mexico are mestizos, aka mixed, just like Arab means mixed. Most of the people that identify as Arab, they are not Ishmaelites, or they are a mix with Ishmaelites. Okay, some of them are, some of those aren't, because the people came over and they got conquered and they intermixed with the women there. Okay. And the thing is that most of the ancient people actually got knocked off. I'll go to this article here, the decline of the Aztec Empire. We'll read here that almost 80% of the people, actually, let's go to, I believe it's another article right here that I have pulled up. Let's read this really quickly. The aftermath of the conquest. The aftermath of the conquest would devastate the native population, as 80% to 90% of central Mexico's inhabitants would perish. So most of the Aboriginal people to Mexico, unfortunately, were killed, and this is part of the Most High's reckoning on our people because of our sin. Because we know that the Aztecs and the Mayans were just going slap off, human sacrifices, blood rituals, so on and so forth. All right. And this is one of those punishments. This is part of the judgment from the Most High. Okay. But 80 to 90% of the people were killed. Just like 80 to 90% of the people in Europe, which were our people. That's why they called it the Black Death. During the Black Death, that was our people. That was part of our punishment. Okay. So you had like the smallpox, not just them killing the people off, but you had like the smallpox epidemic, so on and so forth, which is outlined in the curses in the scriptures too, by the way, if you didn't know, the smallpox. All right, let's get that real quick. Like I said, so much to cover. It just feels like you kind of got to go all over the place just to get to the information. So that's why on the next part, I'm going to try to outline it in a more digestible way. But either way, let's get this real quick. Deuteronomy 28 and 27. The Lord will smite thee with the botch of Egypt, and with the emerods, and with the scab, and with the itch, whereof thou canst not be healed. Thou canst not be healed. All right. So the botch of Egypt, aka the emerods, the scab that comes from smallpox, and with the itch, this is the pestilation that the people in Mexico they suffered, I should say. All right, this was outlined in the curses in the scriptures, meaning what would happen to our people if we did not keep the statute, laws, and commandments. Okay, so a lot of our people, a lot of our people had already died off. Okay, so in my view, we are the 1/3. The 2/3 that already happened. We are the 1/3 that's left over. Okay, in the book of Zechariah, we are the 1/3. Between the killings during 70 AD and the conquer of the temple, between the people killed in the Americas, between the people killed in Europe, we are the 1/3. At least that's what I believe. All right. So I don't believe that 2/3 of the people will die once Christ returns. I believe that we are the 1/3 that are left over that's going through the fire right now. All right. But that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother day. I'm just going to finish up with some of these last notes. And then I already have a lot of the links pulled up, brothers. I just got to go through and I want to put it in a certain way that makes it a lot more digestible. Okay. I put here, you are no different from the so-called white man if you group our people by the land they live in. That doesn't make sense. That's what the so-called white man does. He says that you're Greek if you live in Greece. He says you're Italian if you live in Italy. That's not how lineage works, and we know that. That's common sense. right? But that's the hypocrisy of the so-called white man. We don't want to ascribe to that, right? Or subscribe to it. Okay, it says the Mexicans and Native Americans, quote unquote, have clear admixture. They are not. I probably meant they are clearly not the Aboriginal and indigenous people. Okay, they are not. They are not the original people, and it's okay. That doesn't change much, because I'm not saying that the only people that are Israelites are people that are Black Americans, quote unquote, that identify as so-called black people. I'm not saying that. Quite the opposite. I'm just saying the modern day people that identify that they're not. Okay, they're not the indigenous people, meaning that they're originally from that land. Okay. Now, this is pretty much the point I wanted to make in this video in the first place. It says here, most Israelites agree that the indigenous people in America are Israelites. We all agree on that, right? There's copious amounts of history that prove such. The biggest disconnect is making the modern people today in the land, North and South America, as the ancient people of the land. So that's why we go out, oh, we just teaching everybody that's quote unquote Mexican or Israelites, and all the quote unquote Indians that they're Israelites. It's not the case. Oh, by the way, of course, we know that the quote unquote Native Americans are mixed with the Siberians. Okay, and we'll, Lord willing, go more into that into the next part. That doesn't make you a Negro only Israelite. It's simply history. Okay, I'm not a Negro only Israelite. Don't try to put me in a category, because I appreciate history enough to just not say everybody that identifies as a quote unquote Mexican or a quote unquote Native American is an Israelite. By the way, here's the thing. I'm not even saying they're not. So if you present a quote unquote Mexican in front of me, I won't say he's an Israelite or he's not an Israelite, because at the end of the day, the spirit bear witness. So I really don't have a problem with those brothers that are Mexicans, are Native Americans, that, you know, their spirit resides with the word, and, you know, they be bringing it out, or they identify as Israelite. I actually don't have an issue with that, because I'm not going by appearance alone. But that's what you're doing. If you say all of them are, that's what you're doing, not me. At least the way I look at things, not everyone, but that's the way I look at things. All right. But the problem is that this is something I wrote down too. The same brothers that say you are Negro only, for acknowledging that all Israel had to have at least look similar in skin tone and features, you also identify the so-called white man by his skin tone and features. You can't have it both ways. So if we gonna say, hey, all Mexicans are Israelites, all of the Indians are Israelites, cool, then we also have to keep that congruent across the board. And you pretty much just go by, you know, so basically what I'm saying is you can't go by appearance in one instance and then not in the other. Like we gave the example, or I gave the example with Blake Griffin. We can't look at that example with Blake Griffin and then say, oh, well, you know, we got to go by the lineage and it's not about appearance. But then I say, oh, the same thing applies to the so-called Mexican. And then you call me a Negro only Israelite. We do go by appearance to a certain degree. Let's admit that. Let's just be comfortable with that, because that is part of seeing what a sea lion looks like. That's part of a family. A family, a lot of times they look alike. A father, a child looks like his parents, right? Sometimes the father more, sometimes the mother more, sometimes a combination of them both. But a lot of times they look alike, or they look like somebody else in a sea lion, right? Israel is a big family. That's what a nation is. A nation is a huge family. Okay? You only are the family that I've known on the earth, like in Amos 3:2, we're a family. A nation of people is a family of people. So it's not odd that they look similar. Now, a lot of the Aboriginal people did have distinctive features. I'm not saying that they didn't. So we'll look at, like, you have that couple of the Aztecs. I got that pulled up on one of these tabs up here. You did have the people looking a certain way. I'm not, I'm not saying that either. I'm not saying everybody has to look like Denzel Washington to be an Israelite. All right. I'm not saying that Michael Jordan or something. I ain't saying that. But what I am saying is that it's more similar. Like, the skin tone is more similar. Like, this man here is clearly, to me, at least by appearance, to not be an Israelite. By appearance only. I don't know. I don't know the lineage of this man's father and how far that goes back. I couldn't tell you that. Okay. I can't even go that far back on my side all the way up. If so, then I could prove 1000% that I was an Israelite if I could trace myself back to Simeon, to Naphtali, to Judah, right? So I can't tell you whether this man is an Israelite or not, but by appearance, I would say he's not. I mean, is that too much to say? Is that going off by admitting that he does not look like most of our people look? Is that wrong to say? I mean, we go by appearance again for the so-called white man. All right, for a so-called Asian, which that's what he appears to be. That's what I believe these people are admixture with, by the way. Okay. And the Bering Strait, we'll get into that, but yeah, I feel like there's nothing wrong with that. All right, and the last part, which we'll cover too as well, the prophecies about Issachar, because brothers may be saying, okay, what about the prophecies? All right, and Issachar literally means to hire. And we know that the modern day Mexican, hey, they work. Those boys, they put in the work. They'll wake up 3-4 in the morning and won't stop working until, late at night, and wake up in the next morning and do it again. Matter of fact, where I live at here in Alabama, there's a spot where it's like a group of so-called Mexicans. They just gather at the gas station, and you can literally go over there and go pick them up and be like, I got a project for you to do, and they'll roll with you and just go work. They just go out there like literally looking for hire. It matches the prophecies perfect, right? But all at the same time, that may seem to apply to them, but that does not mean that they are not, they are the ancient Aztecs, because a lot of times these people have, those people that, identify as Mexicans, that's who they got it from, because that's the culture of their land, but that doesn't mean that that's them per se, right? You have to understand that a country's culture is also not indicative of their seed line, right? We know that. So I know that that's also a strong point. I get it. I'm not oblivious to these things, because I got to bring stuff like this out, because brothers, I don't even think this video is going to reach a lot of the brothers that believe a lot of the things that I've been saying, at least like you just dead set on the Mexicans and so on and so forth being Israelites. I don't believe that this video is even going to reach a lot of those brothers, but I have to bring out some of these things. But that's pretty much it for part one. This is a super broad view of my perspective on it. I was really intrigued. I was working on all these other lessons, but when I saw that comment, I was really intrigued. It was just yesterday, I believe, when I responded. So I really been looking into it, and I want to kind of put the rest of this lesson together. But again, that's why I kept it so broad, and we didn't get into too many specifics outside of scriptures here and there. Talked about the 12 tribes chart, but that's pretty much it, brothers. Lord willing, this was edifying. And until the next time, I bid everyone a mighty shalom.